kitchen. So many recipes to share. So many cooks in the kitchen with meals for you to prepare. We've got fruits and grains, veggies and beans, more healthy food than you've ever seen. So many cooks in the kitchen, plant-based meals to prepare. So many cooks in the kitchen with ideas we're happy to share.
Welcome to our August show of So Many Cooks in the Kitchen. My name is Dilla Barman in North Carolina. We've been having these shows, I believe this may be our 51st one, since early on in the pandemic. So those of you who've been watching every month, welcome back. And those of you new, we're so glad you found us. The Cooks in the Kitchen, each of us is a Physicians Committee Food for Life instructor. Food for Life is a nutrition education program of the Physicians Committee, and we have classes to help keep you healthy, classes if you end up with situations like cancer or diabetes, classes to help you manage those situations and give you some evidence-based choices about foods that may be helpful. We have classes for high-performance athletes. We have classes for those on a budget who want to spend very little money and eat well. So check out fflclasses.org, see if there's a Food for Life instructor near you or one who's giving online classes. So a subset of the Food for Life instructors are the Cooks in the Kitchen, and every month we go kitchen to kitchen in various geographies in the United States and several other countries, and we prepare foods to share with you. There's a nutrition document available. Please ask questions. I obviously can't see your question right now. When I'm done, I'll be able to, but my colleagues are watching behind the scenes. And at the end of the show, we'll be back for Q&A, and we have some giveaways. So watermelon is a great source of anti-cancer antioxidants like lycopene. Watermelon is one of the few sources of citrulline. Citrulline is, it helps your body generate nitric oxide, which opens up your blood vessels and decreases blood pressure. If you want to take advantage of the citrulline, when you cut watermelon, try to include not just the deep red parts, but you see the parts at the end, the whitish and greenish parts. That's where the citrulline is concentrated. We have a lot of good dishes folks are making today. I was thinking of making my gazpacho. I make a really delicious watermelon gazpacho, but I have made gazpacho before. We've had more than 50 shows, so instead of gazpacho, I thought I would create a brand new dish, and I came up with a savory watermelon salad that I think you're going to like. Now this salad is really easy. It involves a little bit of cooking, but my family said they liked it better uncooked. So I'm going to take their advice and I'll do the uncooked version, but I'll show you the tiny bit of cooking you can do. So what I did is, well, first of all, here I have some watermelon. So here's a mini watermelon, which is really heavy, and that's what you're looking for. You're looking for a watermelon that's heavy for its size. You're also looking for some marks that shows that it's not green, that it's been field ripened. Okay? And speaking of which, Karen Osborne, one of our cooks in the kitchen, made a video, and we'll try to have somebody, or I'll do it when I get back, made a very nice show just about melons, and we'd love to share that with you again. So this recipe calls for about 3/4 of a mini watermelon. A mini watermelon is a small watermelon. The flavor tends to be more concentrated, and mini watermelons tend to be seedless. Watermelon comes in different colors, not just red, but have any of you ever had a yellow watermelon? And I believe there are even other colors, but red and yellow. So, and it's obviously very hydrating. It's a very hydrating food. So here's my easy peasy recipe. You start by cubing your watermelon, and I did this in advance. I cut my watermelon in half, and then I just removed the skin, and I tried to leave some of the citrulline concentrated portions. And then I made roughly 1-inch cubes. Very imperfectly, but good enough. Okay? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some mint. This is from my garden. So here's some mint, and I'm going to kind of, it got shriveled a little bit, but you want to make like a cigar shape. I'm going to roll it in, roll it up, and then I'm going to simply chop aside, chop across and make narrow strips. This is called chiffonating. Okay, so there we go. And it smells amazing. It smells so good. So I'm going to sprinkle that in. I just want a little bit of mint with the watermelon. You can add more if you'd like, but I think it's better with just a little bit. Let me get a mixing spoon. Watermelon is one of those foods that's just so tasty that you just want to get a slice of watermelon and be done with it and just enjoy. So this is a little bit more involved, but not much involved. I'm going to add some surprising ingredients. I'm going to add some lemon juice. Lemon juice goes great with watermelon. So there's my lemon juice, and all the ingredients and the quantities are in the handout, which we'll post. I'm not a big fan of vinegar, but I think it goes decently with watermelon, so I'm going to add some vinegar. I'm going to add some olives. So some halved olives. Okay, it adds a little punch. When I invented this recipe, I was out of olives. I used capers, so you can use capers instead. Now this is the part that you can cook. You can add some onion. So in fact, onion is one of the parts of the recipe. Half moon, then half moons like this. And my recipe calls for sauteing it just a little bit until the sugars darken and you get a little bit stronger flavor. This onion was really strong when I cut it. And my family, I asked their opinion. They said they actually would prefer it raw. And here's the thing. If you have it raw, it's going to be just a bit more pungent. If you have it cooked, even though I said it makes the flavors a little bit stronger, I should have said it brings the sweetness out a little bit more. I liked it cooked, but I decided today just to put the onion in. So if you want to cook it, you can use a pan. Let me grab my pan. Use a good stainless pan. Here's the rest of the onion. And the stainless pan without oil will do the trick. Okay, make sure the heat is on medium-low, medium-high. So here's my onion. I'm going to dump that in as well. And that's it. So let me go ahead and mix this all up. It looks pretty. The red onion has a different, it's actually purple. It's a different color, it adds to the color combination of the watermelon. You know, it would be neat if you had a yellow watermelon. That would look really pretty with the yellow and purple. It's almost that. It's almost done. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a tiny bit of salt if you want. I'm going to skip the salt. Actually, I'll put just a bit of salt, just a tiny bit. There's already olives in there. I'm going to be careful of our sodium. And then a little bit of black pepper to taste. Okay, let's put just a bit more. You don't want to put too much black pepper, but just a tiny bit. And that's my watermelon salad. This has got to be my fastest recipe ever. It looks pretty. I'll tell you in a minute what it tastes like. My family loved it. I made an earlier batch, and just a little while ago my wife finished the last of it. Okay, let's try it. I'll just put it in this bowl here. Okay. Let's get a spoon. So let's see how the onion and watermelon goes together, and the mint. It's a surprising combination. It's good. It's quite good. I think you'll like it. Just want to make sure I don't forget anything. Optionally, you can put a little bit of orange zest. Take an orange and zest it. That'll add a really nice flavor. But that's it from my kitchen. It's actually not my kitchen, but from where I'm filming from where I'm broadcasting from. So with that, I think Susanna's next. Susanna Dickman in Indiana is going to be making a grilled watermelon salad. Take it away, Susanna. Sorry about that. I just came back from the kitchen. I found out Susanna seems to be having a technical difficulty. Give us a second. Let's see if we can get Susanna on. Rush back here. Headset on. Hang on a second. Okay, I apologize. There's something going on. I can't reach Susanna. I feel bad because she has a great recipe. I'm looking at my texts. So I'll give her a second to see if things get fixed. I will say that I still have to wash my hands and sit back down. I'll answer if any questions came in during my segment. I'll get my hat off. I will say that Susanna's recipe is in the document, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed that Carolyn's ready, available. I'll send her a message. Please ask any questions. We'll answer as we can. I'm going to hand it over to Carolyn in just a second. I'm just giving her, she's ready. Okay, so I'm going to pass it to Carolyn. I apologize about the technical difficulty. Um, Again, Susanna's recipe is published. We won't get to see her. If the technical difficulties resolve themselves, then perhaps she'll join later in the show, but it's not looking good. So I'm not sure what Carolyn's making, but I can look it up. So Carolyn, I believe, is making watermelon poke bowl. So let's see what Carolyn has to make. Enjoy, and we'll be back for Q&A. Please ask questions, and we're happy to answer your questions. And again, sorry for the difficulty.
So I am making something really interesting today. So this was at the request of my daughter. She thought that it would be really cool to use watermelon in place of tuna in a traditional Hawaiian poke bowl. So if you've ever had a Hawaiian poke bowl or ever heard of a Hawaiian poke bowl, traditionally what they are is a bowl that has rice and raw chunks of raw tuna in it. So it's kind of like having sushi, but in a bowl. So some of the same ingredients that you might put in a sushi roll would be in the bowl, and it's called a poke bowl. So we're using the watermelon today, since that's our theme right now, to take the place of the raw tuna. So very interesting idea. I've made it once before just to make sure we liked it, and it's actually really good. And I've never had a real poke bowl with the tuna in it, so I don't even know what it's supposed to taste like, but this is actually really good. So we're going to start with marinating the watermelon so it actually tastes like, I guess, like raw tuna. I don't know. Never had raw tuna. So we're starting with 2 cups of cubed. These are cut into about 1-inch cubes of watermelon. And we get some wonderful, wonderful watermelon from our local farmer's market. This is seedless watermelon. If you can't find seedless, and it's a lot easier to work with seedless, but if you can't find it, then you'll just have to pull the seeds out, because I don't think tuna has seeds in it. So you'll have to go with making sure you get the seeds out. So we're going to start with 2 cups, and then we have 3 tablespoons of a reduced sodium tamari sauce. So this is reduced sodium tamari sauce, 3 tablespoons. I'm going to just pour it right over the watermelon. Seems super weird, I know, to put soy sauce on watermelon, but I promise it's good. Okay, and then we're going to do 2 teaspoons of sesame oil. And now I know we don't use a lot of oil with the Food for Life program, but this is sesame oil for flavoring. And just keep in mind, we're not actually going to be drinking all the marinade. So it's just marinating in it. And you want it to marinate for, I mean, at least maybe 4 to 6 hours. Overnight would be really cool, but for as many hours as you can ahead of time, up to overnight. So 2 teaspoons. If you want to leave this out, you can leave it out. That's fine. It does enhance the flavor quite a bit. So it's just 2 teaspoons of oil, toasted sesame oil. And then we have 1 teaspoon of rice vinegar. Sorry, 2 teaspoons of rice vinegar. 2 teaspoons of rice vinegar. And I'm using this kind, Marucan. 2 teaspoons of that. There we go. And some grated fresh ginger root, which really enhances the flavor. So ginger root, super good for you. Really powerful antioxidants are in ginger root, so we try to incorporate it in everything. So I use this kind of grater like this just to slide it over, and you don't really have to peel the ginger root if you don't want to, especially if it's organic. Then I don't really bother sometimes, but you just grate it over the top of one of these nice little graters, and I'm getting about a teaspoon out of it. So I'm going to take all of that. I just grated it over this nice big bowl, and then I'll dump that onto the watermelon. There we go. And then we have white sesame seeds, just plain white sesame seeds. Will enhance that sesame flavor even more. And then I'm going to use, I have some green onions like this, and I'm just using the white and light green parts and saving the top darker green parts to sprinkle over the bowl at the end. So scoop those up. So that's just the white and light green parts that I've already minced up. And let's make sure that's everything that goes in here. So the soy sauce, or tamari or soy sauce, reduced sodium. Tamari is the one that's gluten-free. So if you need something gluten-free, then tamari sauce is what you're looking for. And then we have the grated fresh ginger root, the sesame oil, the rice vinegar, and the white sesame seeds, and 2 scallions. Okay, so I'm going to put a lid on this bowl, and then really all you have to do is just kind of turn it over a few times and get it nice and coated with that marinade, and then just put it in the refrigerator for 4 to 6 hours. I have one that I already did that I have been turning and turning. So I did this morning. Whoa, I'm drizzling it everywhere, but look at that. So it smells really good. It is, I know it's a strange thing to do to watermelon, but I promise it tastes really good. Okay, so wipe my hands. And then we're going to make a topping, a drizzle to go over the whole thing. So I've seen some of the things that they use in restaurants. If you go to a poke bowl restaurant, you're going to find sriracha mayo. And what they do is just take mayonnaise and add sriracha sauce and lime juice and garlic to it. So instead of doing that, we're going to try and make it a little bit healthier. So I'm going to make a sriracha lime sauce. So that is, I have a 1/4 cup of cashews that I have already, you can just boil them for 10 minutes and let them sit and cool, or you can soak them overnight, whatever works for you. But I don't usually remember to do it the night before, so I just boil them for about 10 minutes. So 1/4 cup. And then 1 package of silken tofu. Whoops, didn't really drain it all the way, did I? Okay, so 1 package of silken tofu. That out of there. And this is the Morinu Silken Organic Tofu. Okay, and then we have lime juice. So the juice of about 1/2 of a lime. And a tablespoon of that rice vinegar. Because rice vinegar just adds so much flavor. And it does kind of trick your mouth into feeling like you're getting something salty, but there is 0 sodium in it, so that's kind of cool. All right, 1 tablespoon of rice vinegar, and then 1 or 2 cloves of garlic. I love garlic, so I'm going to put 2 cloves of garlic, and 2 teaspoons of maple syrup, just to kind of give it a little bit of the sweetness that you might find in like store-bought mayonnaise. So 2 teaspoons of maple syrup. You could also use date syrup if you want to. And then get it all out of there. And a teaspoon of onion powder. So I'm using this Simply Organic onion powder. 1 teaspoon. I usually just measure in my hand because I know what a teaspoon looks like. Okay, that's a teaspoon. So 1 teaspoon of onion powder. And 3 tablespoons of sriracha. So got this nice big container. I'll measure this time. So 1, 2, 3. All right, 3 tablespoons of sriracha. If you want to, you could add a little pinch of iodized sea salt. So remember, you want to make sure that your salt, if you use salt, make sure it's iodized. We need that nutrient for our thyroids. So just a little pinch of iodized sea salt, and that's it. So unroasted cashews, boiled, the package of shelf-stable tofu, the lime juice, the rice vinegar, 2 cloves of 1 or 2 cloves of garlic, up to you, 2 teaspoons of maple syrup, a teaspoon of onion powder, 3 tablespoons of sriracha. All right, so we're going to whirl that up really fast. That's our good sauce for drizzling over the top. So we'll set that aside while we put the bowls together. So we're going to start. The ingredients for the bowls are cooked brown rice, and I'm using a short grain brown rice because that's traditionally what you would find in a poke bowl, and also what you would find in a sushi roll. So it helps stick together a little bit better. So we'll start with the base of brown rice, and then I have cooked edamame. That's a cup to a cup and a half of cooked edamame. You could also instead use maybe some teriyaki tofu cubes. That would be really good too. Some shredded purple cabbage because it's really good for you, but also it's really pretty. And then some shredded carrot, and I have a cucumber all sliced up. So very pretty. And then some cilantro leaves, about a, half a cup or so of cilantro leaves. And then we still have these green onions we can add to the top as well. All right, so let's assemble a bowl and see what that looks like. So I'm gonna get my brown rice out of the container. Let's see, where'd my spoon go? There it is. Okay, so brown rice. We'll start with the base of brown rice. There we go. So I cooked the brown rice in my Instant Pot. I love making rice in the Instant Pot because it takes 22 minutes every time. Pretty cool. Okay, and then the already marinated, oops, if I can pick it up, got a little slippery on me. All right, already marinated watermelon, tuna, I guess we're calling it tuna, watermelon tuna. All right, so I'm gonna get a few pieces out. Set them just in one little spot in the bowl. There we go. And then we'll do some edamame next to it. Okay, and a little purple cabbage. It'll have its own little spot. Let's see, it's starting to look pretty cool. And then some shredded carrot. We'll put that right there. And some slices of cucumber. There we go. And then something that's going to make it really taste like a sushi bowl and be pretty authentic is some pickled ginger. So I have a little bit of pickled ginger right here. Put a little bit on top, sprinkle it right there. Because when you go get sushi in a sushi restaurant, they give you that pickled ginger to go with it. Okay, and then we're gonna do, look how pretty. That is so pretty. We need a down shot of that, I think. That's just beautiful. That's just so pretty. Isn't that gorgeous? Okay, and then we could chop up some of the green onion on top. That would look really nice. Let's see. Got my good kitchen scissors. There we go. So a little green onion over the top. Look at that. And then a drizzle of this delicious sauce. Oh, it smells so good. Okay, I'm going to try to put a little bit if I can get a little bit out. There we go. Whoops, I'm just going to put a few drops of it across the top. There we go. Let's see. That's good. Ooh, that's very good. Okay, and then some cilantro on top. And typically we eat poke bowls with chopsticks. So I have some chopsticks, and this is more of the traditional way to serve it. So look at that, how pretty, very colorful. And the way poke bowls are traditionally eaten if you go to a poke bowl restaurant is you kind of mix everything together as you're eating it. And you could drizzle it with more of the sriracha lime sauce. It's just yummy. So really excited about giving it a try. Yeah, ready to dig into this. So I'm going to send you now over to Jonan. And I can't remember, Jonan, are you still in Italy or are you back in Abu Dhabi? I don't remember, but I'm looking forward to seeing what you make. So thanks for watching.
Good morning, everybody. I hope you're having a wonderful time already. Thank you, Carolyn, for the introduction. Yes, indeed, I'm still in Italy. Maybe you can hear the bugs outside going, making a lot of noise. I don't know if you can hear it. I know you're coming to Italy one of these days, this year, in a couple of months, I think. I hope that one day we could coincide. I'm sorry I'm not going to be here. I'll already be back in Abu Dhabi. But we should talk about doing a plant-based tour together. You know, I host tours to Italy, plant-based tours, and it would be awesome if we could do one together. Show folks wonderful recipes and also share my amazing, beautiful region here. Okay, so watermelon. I think I'm the last one, and after me there's Q&A, so keep your questions coming and hang in there. One more recipe. I hope it's worth your time. Today I did an experiment, so it's here. I haven't tasted it yet. We're gonna do it together. I hope it's a good one. I chose a watermelon that is called Gavina. Look at it, it's very tiny. It's, okay, obviously this is half, but for a single person, it's a wonderful size. I bought it because of that. I had never had it before. It's a lovely little watermelon. For the recipe, it came from an organization that does everything watermelon, and their website is watermelon.org. You can find many, many more recipes there. So I gathered my mise en place, and that's one thing we learned in cooking school that is very important. Now, the recipe, as you know, is in the recipe booklet. I altered it from the website because I did not have all the ingredients they suggested, and things such as pickling spices. In Italy, in the supermarkets, I couldn't find such things. So I improvised, used what I have, plus some of the things that they suggested. So here are all my spices. I used cloves, peppers, allspice in powder form. They suggested the allspice berry, ginger, and then these were my improvisations. I have coriander seeds and stick cinnamon. I also added, which I love, some strips of lemon zest, because I have lemons and I love using lemon zest whenever I can. The other main ingredient is, of course, vinegar. And I like this recipe because they called for cider vinegar, and I was happy to do that. I didn't want to buy white vinegar just for one recipe. And sugar. And I used brown sugar. I don't know what they meant, but this is all I have, and this is what I used. So, having gathered my spices in the right amounts, I then proceeded to cut my melon. It asks to cut them in about 1-inch strips, so this is what I did. And I cut it in half, and then I sort of took the slice out, leaving just a tiny bit of the pink. So I gathered my watermelon, which I later chopped into cowboy caviar that I made, and it just added this amazing sweet and crunchy addition to it, because I didn't know what to do with all that watermelon. Anyhow, so I cut my watermelon out from the rind, and they called for 2-inch strips. So here I go, basically half of these were just about 2-inch strips. And this recipe called for using the whole rind, including the green skin. So I was very curious. There's no waste when you do this. And this being a seedless watermelon, there was really no waste. The one good news is watermelon seeds are edible, so you can, just like pumpkin seeds, eat them, or you can dry them and grind them and add them into your spice mixes. One such mix, which is very personalized in Turkey, is people who are in the southeast with Lebanese background. They do make an amazing za'atar mix with the wild thyme called za'atar. They're picking up my garbage, maybe you hear the truck. The wild za'atar thyme is used in making this za'atar mix, and it has sesame seeds, pepper, salt, many other things, amongst which ground watermelon seeds. That's one of the secrets. So I cut my watermelon, I had my strips. The second step was to, with some water, boil them in a small pot. So I did that. It's actually just 5 minutes of boiling. Then using a straining spoon, I took them all out and put them into this Pyrex glass container pot, and they remain there. The water in which I boiled the watermelon skin and rind remained there, into which I added all the rest of the spices and the vinegar. Once you do that, you let it simmer down a little bit, you mix it, you stir it so that the sugar melts and everything is nicely mixed, and then you let it simmer gently for about 15 minutes. It's not to reduce it drastically, but it reduces a little bit. And then the remaining liquid here, after the 15 minutes, you pour onto your watermelon rinds, and you cover it with a plate so they stay submerged in this liquid. This is after a whole day in the pickling liquid. I love pickles of all sorts, and I'm just really curious how this tastes because I've never had watermelon rind pickle, so I'm I really, really like it. And having the outer green layer of the skin really gives it a good crunch. It's almost eating a very crunchy gherkin or something. I like it. Okay, I'm gonna have another piece because this is yummy. Happiness. Now these are ready. The next step, the day after, is to put them in a jar. Now, please be reminded, this is not pickling for long-term storage. The recipe says if you do it this way, you can keep it for about 2 weeks in the fridge. So you can see my lemon zest as well. So I now take them all, put them into my jar. It's a clean jar, which can be used for pickling, but this is, pickling for long-term storage, but I am not doing this for long-term. Also because in a week's time, I am going to be in Abu Dhabi, and in the next show, I will see you from Abu Dhabi for sure. And okay, here we are. They are in the jar. Now, of course, it's ready to use, so you can also put it in a bowl and serve it to your friends and family. And the rest of the liquid, you pour on top of it. Ta-da! Here we are. This is all done. And I see the little cloves. I love cloves as well. And we're done. It's quite beautiful also. It's not a bright green or anything, but the the pink and the green, and they are just really looking lovely, and the flavor is awesome. I think I could use it just as is, as a snack, with a wonderful meze platter, or, in my opinion, chopped thinly and small pieces. It could go into a no tuna mix or any salad, or like a nice side thing, or in slices with a veggie burger. So I hope you do try this at home and have wonderful results as I have, and give us feedback. And don't go away. We have Q&A now after me. See you all soon. Bye. Arrivederci.
All right, let's see. Let's give Jeanne a second to get to her computer. I see Carolyn's available. So hello, Carolyn. Let me turn the background off. So we apologize for Susanna's technical difficulties, but her recipe looks really good. It's in the document. So I'll just give Jeanne a second. Let's see if she's available. There she is. Hi, Jeanne. Great. So welcome everybody to our show. This is our watermelon show. Hope you've enjoyed all our cooking. Um, so I have some questions, but Carolyn, do you mind, as questions come in from our audience, noting down and numbering them, and then we'll do a random number draw to see who gets our prizes? I'm really
Piece of
excited.
paper. Oh, there's one. Hang on, paper.
I'm really excited about the prizes this time. So we were trying to think of what to do for melons, and when we did our melon show, we had like a melon tool, which I didn't like. It didn't work very well for me. So Karen and I were talking last night several times, and finally we came up with a non-melon prize. So the first prize is my favorite nutritionist, Brenda Davis. So Brenda Davis has lots of books. She has, I think, 13 books, 14 books. So and they're all fabulous, and she's a fabulous person. So so we're going to give Brenda's book, Becoming Vegan, comprehensive edition, and then we have a magazine subscription.
I want it. I'll ask a question.
No, me too.
We don't qualify.
Oh,
Somebody's
We're
at
very
my
qualified. We are very qualified.
exactly.
somebody's at my door. I'm going to let that be because we're not expecting anybody. But if they ring a few more times, then I'm going to leave the show in your hands just for a moment.
Okay.
All right. So some questions are coming in. I have some questions. Let's take the first studio question, or first guest question, and that is from Shirley Ann Mooney. And Carolyn, will you write down Shirley Ann Mooney's name? She's the number one person. So when we do a random number drawing, she would be number one. Shirley Ann, thanks. Thanks for watching the show. Your name's familiar. I think you've been on the show before. So Shirley Ann asks, what is the best way to wash a watermelon? And I can take that. I wanted to share, and I think we shared it earlier. Let me share it again. Karen is, she's been out for some shows now, but she is amazing at ingredients. And so she did a whole special topic. There's like a 10-minute video that you can find at bit.ly/so many topics melons. And if you tack on a doc, there's the document. And she has a wealth of information on melons. And I'll tell you what I learned from Karen, which directly answers your question. So that's the link. What Karen would say is that melons can pick up mold. And so a lot of people just rinse the melon and then they cut it. But ever since Karen taught me this, what I do is I wash it with soap. I have a bad back, and my wife brought home a couple days with this huge watermelon. It may have been the heaviest watermelon ever. And in my house, because I have a bad back, I don't generally load my groceries. The grocery store does that, and then my daughter and wife bring the groceries in because I don't want to hurt my back. So if I have a choice, I have somebody help me. So my daughter held the watermelon, or my wife held the watermelon. My daughter did, and I washed it with soap. And what Karen will tell you is, if you don't wash it with soap, then the mold can persist. And when you use your sharp knife, it drives the mold into the flesh of the watermelon. So Shirley Ann, the best way to wash a watermelon is just get some soapy water and rub it and clean it off. For any melon, especially
Like a baby.
like a baby, but you use a harsher stroke than on a baby, especially for ones that have texture like cantaloupes, but even watermelon. Great question. Question from Lee Hay. Lee, good to see you as well. Carolyn, did you make your own pickled ginger or is it store-bought? Do you have a recipe to make your own?
You know what? It's store bought because it was just fast, and my daughter had requested, "Let's make poke bowls," and I was like, "What?" So I just had some store bought ginger, but it would not be hard to make your own pickled ginger. That would be very simple. So, I mean, I think all you would need to do is just microplane, shred it, and then add vinegar. Put it in some warm vinegar and let it. I mean, I think you could make a very quick pickled ginger that way. It would be so very easy, but. No, I bought that because I already had it just for making stuff like poke bowls for my daughter who requested it, who loved it, by the way, and thought it was within the top 5 things I've ever made. So that was
Wow.
yeah. She said, "I think this is in the top 5 things you've ever made. I love this. I could eat this every day." So I do have something I wanted to add that I realized I forgot. In my recipe, it's in my recipe in the document, but I forgot to talk about it in the video. That you could add crushed seaweed snacks or nori seaweed sheets. Just crumble them up and sprinkle it over, like when you're marinating it, or just add it right into the bowl, which would give it much more of a fishy flavor. I didn't really want it to taste like raw tuna, so I didn't add that, but you definitely could, and that would be a really good addition, I think. And I think I wrote it on the document, but I didn't do it just because I didn't really want it to taste like fish, but it was really good the way it was. But
Seaweed and nori are great to add. They have lots of micronutrients. The thing to watch out for with that is one is pollution because they're sitting in water and our waters are getting more and more polluted. But also some of these foods can be high sodium, and we need to watch our sodium as well. So be careful with that.
Some of the seaweeds have a lot of iodine too, like beyond the recommended amounts.
Right. Well, actually, I ate seaweed snacks a few years ago. It was probably 4.5 years ago now. I was diagnosed with a thyroid problem, and I realized it was because I wasn't getting enough iodine because I don't
Right.
eat seafood, and I was using the wrong salt. I was using uniodized sea salt, which I just
Right.
assumed sea salt meant that it would have iodine in it, but it did not. And so when I went and looked, it said, "Oh, this is not a source of an essential nutrient, iodine." So I went and switched my salt. My doctor tried to get me to go on medication, to go on Synthroid, and I said, "You know what? Give me about 4 or 5 months." The pandemic happened during then too, but so I had about 5 months between blood tests. But when I went back, my thyroid test was normal because I switched to iodized sea salt and I started eating seaweed snacks pretty regularly, and my thyroid was fine again after that. So, which much to her chagrin, because she was annoyed that I didn't want to go on medication. So, and I said, I promise I'll take the medication if you let me work on it first with my diet. And then I did. And my thyroid's perfectly fine. In fact, the numbers keep getting lower and lower. It's really good because I switched my diet to eating iodized little sea snacks, and so you could add those to this, and if you want it to taste like raw tuna, because you really miss that or something, and you're trying to eat totally plant-based, but you miss the raw tuna poke bowl, this was really convincing. Like, I've never eaten raw tuna, so I don't really know what that's supposed to taste like, but if you added the seaweed snacks to it, I think it would probably, I think it would help.
Gomasio, maybe, Carolyn. Have you ever used Gomasio?
Yes.
In one of the shows, I had actually made it. So sprinkling Gomasio on it would probably be very
That would be
nice.
really good. Yes, that would be very good. So because that has doesn't that have sesame seeds in it
Sesame
too?
and seaweed and a little bit of salt.
That would be perfect. Yeah, that would be perfect sprinkled on top. In the poke bowl, that would be so good because it would.
I'm gonna do that.
Do, and then send me a picture.
Yes, I will. I will.
Yeah. So
Anne, I like your point. So turn yours into a question. You can be in the drawing. I wanted to take just a quick moment. I don't want to talk a lot about it, but salt. So sometimes salt, we have to be careful because most Americans are eating way too much salt. And so be careful with that. We generally, the kinds of foods we recommend are not processed. We're eating, whole foods. And so if your doctor tells you to avoid salt, then do avoid salt. And there's many merits to an SOS diet, salt-free, salt, oil, and what's the other S? Sugar-free, right? So we generally follow an oil and sugar-free diet. I use a little bit of salt, And there are definitely some benefits to, avoiding that salt. But if you are using salt, then as Carolyn said, for years I used to use all these fancy salts like
Pink
Madagascar pink.
Himalayan and
Right,
yeah.
right.
But they don't have iodine.
Himalaya.
There's
So you
no
want to have
iodine.
iodine. So make sure you're getting a source
Right.
of iodine. That's really important. Kim.
It is. I found out the hard way. It is, but I'm fine now. But yeah.
And then another question for Carolyn, and this is from a plant-based diet. I believe that's Mike Young. So we'll talk about you in a second, Mike. So Mike has this wonderful vegan cruise that Carolyn and I have presented on, and Cody as well. So Mike asks, Carolyn, does your finished watermelon dish have a chewy tuna texture?
Let me add Mike.
Mike and Denise Young. Mike and Denise both.
Right. I'm adding a plant-based diet / Mike. Okay. So it's not as chewy as tuna would be. I assume. I've never eaten raw tuna, but I can just assume that it would probably be more chewy. I've eaten cooked tuna years and years ago. I've never eaten raw tuna, but I think there's a way that you could actually make it even more chewy and make it more authentic, the texture more authentic, and that would be to compress the tuna. So compress the watermelon. So I would take, I don't know, Dilip, if you remember, if you went to the International Conference on Nutrition and Medicine, it was before the pandemic, but they served us compressed watermelon.
Yes, that was really good.
And it was very interesting. So, and I was thinking, that would be a way to actually give it more of the mouthfeel that you would want if you missed raw tuna. So you would take like a nice thick slab of the raw watermelon, and I think seedless would probably work best because, like I said, tuna doesn't have seeds. So, but if you can, or just get the seeds out, and then slowly press it like you would tofu. So you could even use a tofu press, I would think, just slowly compress, and then save the liquid that comes out of it, because you can just drink it. It would be delicious, or put it in a smoothie. But if you compress the watermelon down smaller and smaller and then marinate it, I think probably it would give it more of that authentic mouthfeel. Now it's cold, and I assume that raw tuna in a poke bowl is also cold. So, but it sure looks like it. That's the part that's, to me, it's like visually, it looks like that's what you're eating. And the flavor is just so good. Like I said, my daughter, who isn't 100% plant-based all the time, she tries to eat a pretty healthy diet, but she's not 100% plant-based. She does eat like a real poke bowl sometimes. So she was the one.
Yours is a real poke bowl too.
Yours is real, you know what I mean? Like an actual poke bowl. If you went to a poke restaurant, they're going to put raw tuna in it. And so, unless you ask them not to. And so in this case, if you make it yourself, it's so simple. But poke bowl restaurants are popping up all over the place. There's several in Alabama that I've seen. And they're very popular because it's a nice cold dish. It's not hot, and it's hot here a lot. So we like to eat cold food here as much as we can. So I think compressing the watermelon before, maybe for several hours until it comes down to about half the size it was. So if it was, an 1.5 inches, 2 inches thick slab, if you got it down to about 1 inch thick or less, and you compressed it and then marinate it, that would probably give it a more, I think I remember, Dilip, when we ate it, the compressed watermelon in Washington, D.C. a few years ago, it had a much more chewy texture. I remember that. So I remember thinking, wow, and the flavor was so much more intense because it had been compressed and had the liquid removed. So I think that could do it. I just didn't bother doing that. But maybe next time I'll try that, because I'm pretty sure this is going to be a staple in our rotation, since, my daughter lives here now, and she really liked it.
So I just put the link up. So when we were on this cruise that we mentioned, so Mike and Denise are watching. So welcome, Mike and Denise. So Cody, Carolyn, and Cody's daughter, Ava, we made a nice video. So we're going to be on the cruise again in January, and if you have any questions for the cruise, contact us, and we'd love to tell you more about it. It was a great cruise, and I think we're going to be doing even more cooking this time. Did you do any cooking on this cruise, Carolyn? I don't think you cooked this time.
I didn't get to do any cooking. I talked about why change is hard, and helping people create change, make changes, and having compassion for themselves in those changes.
You know what's interesting? I wanted to say something is some of you know that, of course, I teach food nutrition. I also teach math. I love teaching math. And so when I was going on that cruise, I was getting off the plane in Miami, and I work with kids all over, not just the country, but in other countries too. And I tutor online. And I got a call from New York City, one of my families, and they were talking about, our next tutoring session. So I said, "Oh, I want to remind you, I'm actually getting on a cruise." And that gave me an idea that one of these days I want to do some math cruises too. But
Ah,
certainly we do plant-based cruises and invite you guys to come on that. All right, there were more questions that came in, and Anne had this question about how to make brown rice in the IP, and I'd like to start by answering it. And either of you who want to also answer it, I want to start my link. Hi, Eli.
I
I want to start yep, and Kathy, I'll put the link up in just a second. I wanted to share this about here we go. So here's a link that may help you, Anne, and others. So I've created a document about pressure cooking, and if you follow this, it'll tell you all about pressure cooking, including pressure cooking rice. I don't pressure cook my rice; it does go faster, and the reason is that be careful about rice. Rice is a healthy food, especially brown rice, but about what is it, 2 years ago, it turned out people realized that there are some health hazards by eating too much rice. So rice can have arsenic in it, and I believe almost all rice has a little bit of arsenic, which
yeah.
is not good for you.
Mhm.
And so the take-home message is, and I will answer the question how to prepare rice, and then I invite John in or Carolyn to pitch in as well. Is don't eat as much rice as you used to. If you are Oriental, if you're from China or Japan or something like that, or Thailand, and you're eating rice every day, maybe you should try to consider eating less rice, like once or twice a week. I used to make rice at least 3, 4 times a week, and now I do it maybe once a week. So the way I make rice, and this is my advice that I got from Brenda Davis, is to minimize the risk of arsenic. Soak your rice with plenty of water overnight. Get rid of the water a few times, and then cook it not like rice, where you put a ratio of 1 to 2 brown rice or 2.5, but put lots of water like pasta. Boil it. If you can, occasionally dump out the water, put some fresh water, and cook it like pasta. It doesn't taste quite as good. It gets a little soggy, but it's the best way to mitigate the arsenic. So that's my non-culinary answer to your question. Janan or Carolyn, did you want to talk more about
Well,
rice?
when I cook it in the Instant Pot, I use the Instant Pot directions and rice selection. But like you, I don't do it every day. I alter my grains. I cook millet and bulgur and rice and um, farro and all sorts of different things. So I try to rotate. And then when I cook it, if I cook it in the Instant Pot, I follow the Instant Pot recipe. And it works wonderfully. I think mine says not to rinse it, and it doesn't take it takes like 1 to 1 water in my Instant Pot using its rice setting. But otherwise I cook like you say with lots of water, and once it comes to the consistency I like, I dump the rest of the water out, and it's done.
And
I do it a
yeah,
little bit different. Go ahead.
sorry, and yeah, rice from California also has arsenic. Organic rice still has arsenic. It's
Right.
because of the
Yeah,
neighboring fields.
my understanding is all rice has it. And a friend of mine, nutritionist friend of mine, who actually did his PhD on heavy metals and poisons from foods, he says that rice from all over the world naturally has arsenic in it.
And we don't want to say this to scare you. We're not saying don't eat
Exactly.
rice, right? So rice is a healthy
Right.
food. Just don't eat it, as much as perhaps you used to.
Right.
Right.
Well, it's because rice is grown in water, like it has to have swampy, boggy area to grow, and it's really efficient at absorbing arsenic from the soil. So one of the ways that soil is rehabilitated around the world to be used for other things, other growing, is by growing rice and then getting rid of the rice after the arsenic has all gotten leached out of the soil. So rice is very good, unfortunately, at absorbing arsenic. But the way I do it in my Instant Pot is even a little bit different. So I do, it's a 1 to 1.25 cup water ratio. So 1 cup of rice, which I rinse really, really well. I rinse it for quite a while until the water runs clear. Sometimes I even soak it for a little bit just to help, because supposedly that can help get some of the arsenic content decreased. So I do 1 cup of rice, 1 1/4 cups of water, and then 22 minutes on high pressure, and then just let it release pressure naturally. And as soon as the pin drops and you can open it, it's perfect. Every time, you don't have to drain any water off. It's the exact right amount of rice and water. I've been doing it that way for a long time, but I have also experimented with the way Dr. Greger mentions doing it, which is a way to decrease the arsenic content in it, which is to cook it like we would pasta. And so 1 cup of rice to like 10 cups of water, and you rinse it first, and then you cook it like you would pasta in like a huge amount of water for the same amount of time you normally would on the stovetop, and then pour it through a sieve, like a fine mesh strainer, and it comes out really light and fluffy. So it does work. It's really good like that. But it just takes longer. So.
Let's add Kathy. So, Carolyn, you're keeping track of all the people asking questions.
Can I ask a question, though? Because I think Anne asked a question, too.
Okay.
Was that right? So
yeah,
yes.
So add Anne. Anne's
okay.
on the list.
Kathy.
And quickly, let's take Kathy's question, but let's talk about Anne's, too. So Anne's asking, is 2 cups cooked daily too much rice? So based on what we hear about arsenic, I would say don't eat rice every day. But we all take risks of different kinds, and I'm not from, and I'm not suggesting you might be, but you may or may not be. But if I were of Chinese background or Japanese background and I was used to eating it every single day, then you kind of have to figure it out whether you want to do it. So the recommendation that Brenda Davis gives, and I think Michael Greger too, is don't eat it every day.
Right.
So
I eat it maybe once a week.
Yeah.
Once a week,
So
like
and
about a cup
what
and
I
a
would
half.
do, if this is something you're willing to change, if you really love the rice and you don't want to, but if you're willing to make a change, then maybe try other grains sometimes, like quinoa, which leads to the next question.
Or
Quinoa or
farro.
bulgur
Love
or farro or
farro.
something else. Yeah.
Right.
So try wild rice, which isn't a rice, but it has a nice texture. It's expensive, but it's really nice. So there's
And
other
I like
things.
millet a lot. Maybe
Me
some
too.
people don't like it, but millet's lovely.
So
Teff. Teff is fun to work with too. It's
Yeah.
so
great.
fine.
It's teeny tiny. It's so cute. It's so cute, isn't it?
Yesterday for dinner, I used a grain. I'll bring up a picture of it. What's the grain that Mark talked about? It's an African grain. I forgot what it's called. I used that in dinner yesterday, so I can show it.
Fonio?
Fonio, yeah.
I love fonio. Fonio is great. Yeah, I've made a
So
few really good dishes out of fonio.
Here's my dinner from yesterday. I don't know if you can see it.
Kind of. Is it fonio?
Here's my dinner from Isidore.
So there's okra, and I'll zoom in on the
okra.
fonio. Yeah, so that's the
Oh
fonio.
yeah, fonio.
So I put some peas and edamame. Vegans like to take pictures of their food plates.
Polenta
right?
is very good too.
I have so many food pictures on my phone.
Yeah.
So Kathy asked,
also substituting polenta every now and then.
Yeah,
works really well.
Yes, exactly. Do love
and
polenta.
polenta works great in the Instant Pot, especially if you have a newer Instant Pot. The newer ones actually blow a breath of air here periodically, which helps stir it, because polenta helps by being stirred. So Kathy's asking, can you cook quinoa the same way, like pasta, not measure the water? That's what I do. I used to be more careful with the measurements: 1 part water, 1 part quinoa, 2 parts water. I don't bother. I just estimate it, and that's how I cook it. I cook it. I turn the range on for maybe 4 minutes, and I turn it off and cover it, or I boil it for 8 to 10 minutes, and I'm done. So yeah, you can do the same thing. And here's the trick with all of these grains: instead of cooking in water, use vegetable broth, and that adds some extra flavor.
Every time I add vegetable broth to quinoa, every time. Yes.
Or throw some other things in too, like throw some potatoes or some.
Unless I'm making breakfast quinoa, then I do not add broth. So I do like
the breakfast quinoa. I love that
recipe. Fruited breakfast quinoa is so good. Such a great way to start the day.
And Kathy has another question about soaking. If you soak overnight, wouldn't the arsenic soak in? No. So what happens?
No, it goes out.
Comes out. Yeah, it gets pushed out. So it
leaches out into the water. Right.
Yeah. And so what I usually do, like if I'm home all day and I know I'm making rice for dinner, is I'll start in my morning. I wake up late, so after my breakfast. Thanks, Anne. So you're quite welcome. So Anne, we will remove you from the drawing because you need to be present for the drawing. So we won't include you since you'll be going.
Alrighty.
But Kathy, what I do sometimes is if I haven't soaked overnight, then I'll soak it for an hour. So I'll get rid of the water. Then I'll boil it, get rid of the water, put more water, boil it. Since if I'm home, because my kitchen's right here, it's a couple footsteps away from where I work. And so I can babysit it all day and I can periodically, bring it to boil, get rid of the water and then simmer it. But ideally soak it overnight and the arsenic comes out, much of it. And that's the best way to eat rice. It doesn't taste quite as good as the traditional way, but it's close. It's just a little bit soggy. Okay, I had some questions as well. So, Jean, and I wanted to. I'm jealous because I've been to Italy. The food is great. Carolyn's been there and she's going back. The food is
I
just
know.
so
I
good.
want you to come when I'm there, so we do a tour together.
That would be great. I would go back again. I love Italy.
Italia, and so the choices are good. You held up a watermelon, or the watermelon you used I had never heard of. I wrote it down. I think it was called Gavenci or something like that.
Gavina, Gavina.
Can you tell
Gavina.
us more about the varieties you get in Italy, and are they different? Do they taste very similar? Because here in North Carolina, we get yellow watermelons, we get red watermelons, we get sugar baby watermelons. In the market, they have these really big Japanese watermelons, organic ones that were really expensive and extra sweet. So, are there special watermelons you get that maybe we don't in the States?
Big ones, small ones. I mean, they didn't specify Japanese or whatever, but this Gavina was pretty much the only one that had a name, and they were tiny, but I think they're like what we have in the US. I mean, some of them are elongated and some of them are just really ball-like. And then the Gavina ones are about this big, so just as big as my hand type of thing. And it's perfect for me because if I buy the others, and I don't like buying slices of watermelon. So if I'm alone, I will never buy an already cut one. I feel weird about it.
Why?
But that's why, I don't know,
will.
just a personal thing.
I don't buy already cut up fruit either. I just don't know what got cut right before that. What knife got used? What did they cut before that? I mean, and it might.
And
the
just
grocery
talked about
store,
washing the outside of the melon.
Right. And did they wash it? I don't know. I mean,
Well, at a reputable store, they would.
I don't know. So unfortunately, like where I mostly have to grocery shop now since we lost our Whole Foods, where I have to shop, we have the produce section where they cut all the fruit is right next to the meat section, and so that just kind of like I don't want to have things that are already cut up in there. So I'm sure they don't walk across.
Hey, this knife doesn't cut good enough.
Let me borrow that one. I know. Like, oh, I don't really want to use anything. I don't want things that are already cut up. I just prefer it myself, doing it myself at home because I know I washed the outside of it. I know what's on my knives.
And speaking of washing it, this was a question that I had, but Janet, and welcome Janet to the show. Let's add Janet's name to the questions. Okay. Janet asked, can you use another melon rind to make the pickles, Janin?
Sure. It doesn't have to be the kind that I bought. The recipe I used comes from this everything you want to know about watermelon website. It's called watermelon.org. And they basically just says use watermelon rind. And I personally bought that tiny one because I'm alone at home and I'm never going to finish it if I bought something big. So, so yes,
I think Janet's question
any
is other melons like cantaloupe or honeydew.
I suppose, but I wonder if
probably wouldn't use a cantaloupe, not a cantaloupe.
Cantaloupe has sort of not
too
so
bumpy.
Shiny. Yeah, it's not a shiny surface, so it might not work.
But honeydew.
Honeydew. Yeah, those are shiny. The soft ones probably won't work. In Turkey, they make pickles with watermelons and melons, and especially little bitty baby ones. I think when they're trying to thin what they're growing, like there are hundreds and hundreds of melons, they want to make less on the field. So they pick the baby ones and they pickle them whole. And that's pretty too.
Speaking of turkey, I teach my math classes and my food nutrition classes at a Turkish cultural center. So I was there earlier, for the cooking, and some artisans from Turkey are in residence for a few weeks, redoing some of the Sancur Center, some of the things there, and they don't speak English. So I just today, my wife picked a lot of figs from our tree. So I offered them. I couldn't, can't speak Turkish, so they seem to really enjoy that because I know they get figs
That's
in
very
Turkey.
nice.
I have a question, and Dilip, you asked a question before, but I didn't enter you into the drawing. So I have a question. Actually, it's about Turkey. So I've noticed watching on the Olympics, they're pronouncing it now Turkey.
Turkey. They changed the name. That's the
Turkey,
traditional name.
that's right.
Turkiye.
But John, and how would you say that?
I say that Turkey.
Turkey. That's what they're kind of saying now. I've noticed on the Olympic Turkey.
Right.
Okay. Very interesting. Okay.
Yeah,
they officially changed it with the UN.
About a year ago.
A couple of years ago, they did it. So
okay.
on all official documents now, in the past it used to say the Republic of Turkey. Now it says the Republic of Turkey.
Well, I did an assessment for some potential students for my math school, and so I always give a tour. And in the back, I always ask the kids, "Who's the founder of our country?" And they say George Washington. And so we have sculptures. We have a sculpture of Ataturk, and I say, "Well, Ataturk is," and I give a little history of the Ottoman Empire and all. And then they also have a sculpture of Piri Reis, and the Turks claim that Piri Reis was the first to create an accurate global map.
Oh, Piri Reis.
Piri Reis, yeah. I don't know how to pronounce it. Yeah. All right, let's see. There's some more questions.
Okay.
I think we answered all the questions, so I have a couple of my own. Did you want to talk a little bit more about poke bowls? Because I'm not really familiar with poke bowls, Carolyn.
Oh, okay. So a poke bowl is basically, it was started in Hawaii. And it's basically like the idea of taking a sushi roll and putting all of the components you would put in sushi into a bowl and eating it out of a bowl instead of rolled up like sushi. And so poke bowl restaurants have become very popular. When I was in Hawaii a few years ago, there were a lot of poke bowl restaurants. But we had one here in Montgomery that closed right around the time of the pandemic. I guess nobody was going out to eat and they just couldn't stay open. But it was called High Five Poke. And in Birmingham, they have several poke bowl restaurants. You can even find them in some of the shopping malls in Birmingham, like right in the food court area. There's a poke bowl restaurant.
Right. In Abu Dhabi too.
Yeah, so poke bowls are basically like what you would put in a sushi roll, but you put it outside of a roll, put all the ingredients into a bowl, which is why it's rice and raw fish and it's like an Asian burrito bowl. Yes.
That's what Janet's saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a burrito bowl.
Yeah, it's like an Asian burrito bowl. And so you do the rice, you do maybe shredded cabbage, shredded carrots, shredded cucumber, and then they put the raw fish. And so, I just thought such a funny idea when I told my daughter. She said, "What are you doing for the next So Many Cooks in the Kitchen?" And I said, "Oh, I'm doing watermelon." She said, "Oh, I love watermelon. Oh my goodness, you could make this, you could make that." She's coming up with all kinds of ideas because she knows she gets to eat the stuff that I practice. And then she gets to eat it when I make it. And so she came over, today to eat lunch. And so, she loves to eat whatever I make. So she always comes up with ideas. If she's going to be here at my house, she's like, "Make this." And so it was her idea a few weeks back when I said, "We're doing watermelon." And she said, "Make poke bowls because the watermelon is like the raw tuna." And I said, "What?" I hadn't even thought of that.
Let's talk about nutrition of melon a bit. And again, look at our document because each of us has written a little bit about nutrition, I think. And then, of course, Brenda's written a lot about nutrition. You haven't? Yeah. So I always write something about nutrition. So of course, one of the key things about melons.
I always figure you're going to write it, Dilip, so I don't.
One of the key things about watermelon, of course, is very hydrating. Karen describes the water that you get in watermelon even more hydrating than water itself because of all of the micronutrients in it and the salts in it. Not the salts, but the micronutrients in it. Here's a question I don't know the answer of, and maybe the two of you do, is in our classes, you do the same thing, I'm sure. I tell my students that the richer the colors of our foods, the more phytonutrients, which means they're fighting.
Behind Carolyn.
Right behind me, right. There it is.
Yeah. So Question for
It's a
you: is it
rainbow.
the case that like yellow watermelon is not as nutritious as red watermelon? Does
I
anybody
just
know?
don't
But it
think it
would
would
have
have, it
beta
wouldn't have as
carotene,
much,
I can
it wouldn't have
say.
as much lycopene. It would probably have
Right,
more beta carotene and not as much lycopene
Yeah,
right.
should we
because
look
it's the red color back there
right?
on the Eat the Rainbow poster that we have. It's the red colors. Anything that's naturally red in color is going to give you lycopene. And lycopene is a powerful antioxidant, especially for things like prostate cancer. But, lycopene is probably more more useful than just prostate cancer. I'm sure it's all kinds of other cancers, but you find it in naturally red foods. So,
Tomatoes.
Instead,
tomatoes, guava,
the
um,
yellow
what?
one has lycopene. I
It
mean,
does have
sorry,
lycopene.
beta carotene. Beta
Beta
carotene
carotene. Yeah, that's
instead of
what I.
lycopene. Yeah.
So yeah, so like our little poster behind me says, I'm getting mixed up because it's over there. It has, we always say eat the rainbow, not Skittles and Fruit Loops, but like the actual rainbow that grows from the ground. I know that's the Skittles logo, eat the rainbow. It's like, well, that's not the real rainbow. Those are artificial colors.
You know
So
what's strange is I find that, and you guys, I know we've talked about this too, is if you're used to eating like candy and things, then you lose the taste for fruit. But if you're not eating foods like candy, like even my daughter,
right,
she very rarely has candy, and she complains that it's too sweet. So when we eat fruit,
right,
it tastes nice and sweet. But if you're eating these
yeah,
things called Skittles, which I think I probably had when I was, a little kid. I've not had Skittles since then. You miss your taste for it. Sugar is not a good choice. It gives you a lot of hyperactivity. Whereas the fruit, if you're eating fruits, then you're getting a steady source of
right.
energy.
Yeah,
Um,
if you go without the artificially sweetened things, the highly sweetened, the things that are highly processed like Skittles and Fruit Loops, then if you go without that for a few weeks, your taste buds will change. And when you eat a piece of
Right.
watermelon, it will taste really sweet like candy. I mean, it's just delicious, but we've kind of ruined our taste buds, I think,
y-
just by eating things that are just artificially too sweet.
One thing that they do in
Right.
India, and my parents used to do this, and Sangeeta sometimes, my wife likes to do this sometimes, is sprinkle a tiny bit of salt on the watermelon. We were
Mm.
talking about maybe
Yeah.
many people would avoid
Yeah.
salt, but some people, and I tried it last week. I had like 3 pieces of watermelon. And I put just a tiny bit of salt in one because some people swear by it. They say that the salt makes it sweeter. So I was
Yeah.
going to ask if you guys had any experience. One is saying no,
That's a
one is
very
saying yes.
Turkish thing. Not salt, but we serve it actually with feta cheese. And last night I had a dinner party and I served it with feta cheese,
You're
vegan feta
you're
cheese.
vegan feta cheese, yeah.
Yeah.
Vegan fit, yeah.
So
Huh.
we often, I mean, unless you're eating the watermelon for after dinner sweet, so if you eat it alone, but if you're having it as an appetizer, we serve it
Mhm.
with feta cheese,
Mm.
which is
Mm.
very salty and cheesy.
Do you make your feta out of tofu? Like a
No, this time I bought it. I
Oh,
actually
okay.
bought
Yeah.
it.
I've made it with like extra firm or firm tofu and let it marinate for
Lemon
several
juice.
days. And
Oh,
then, yeah,
nice, nice.
and
No,
lots of
this
fresh roast
one,
herbs, basil and oregano and all
but
kinds of, yeah.
like you had bought your ginger pickles, I bought this. This was amazingly flavorful,
Hmm.
but full of saturated fat. So
Mm.
it's
Yeah,
a once in
sure.
a
Yeah.
lifetime treat for me. I
Right,
won't
right,
buy it again, but it's
right.
Let's
really
take
really good.
Let's take Bonnie's question. Let's add Bonnie to the list too as a person asking questions.
I
So
see
yeah,
that,
there
Bonnie.
is a
Okay.
difference in taste, and
There
I
but
is.
there's
know.
a difference between varieties. You get two red watermelons, and they'll be different because there's some, depends on how much water, how much sun, and all. But I like the taste of the yellow watermelon. It's hard to describe how it's different, but it is different from the red. So if you get a chance to try it out, they are different
I think
varieties
it's not usually quite as sweet, but also it has, to
or
me,
water.
it's very watery, but it's also so John, and you were saying before you couldn't eat all of the watermelon yourself, but I was just laughing because we have a really cute elderly couple here in Montgomery that they come to the farmers market every Saturday morning with the whole back of their truck loaded with watermelons, and
Oh,
they're just awesome. And they have the yellow meat, they have the red meat, they have the, as they call them, yellow meat, red meat, and seedless. They've got all kinds of varieties. But the woman, I mean, she's got to be 75. She says every summer, for as long as she can remember, she has eaten an entire watermelon by herself every day.
Wow.
Every day.
And
Every day.
That's awesome, because that's the chemical that you were talking about earlier, Dilip.
Lycopene?
No, not lycopene. There's something in the that
Oh.
Karen was talking about.
Oh, in the skin, in the white part. Right. That's
Right.
that
Yes,
helps.
yes.
That
In
increases your
order-
nitrous oxide.
Right. In order for a
Citrulline.
person to be,
Citrulline.
right. In order
Citrulline,
for you to get enough of it, you need to eat something like more than 1.5 kilos a day. So this woman was getting enough of the citrulline, because I read a research study where
the bathroom a lot.
they checked.
Yes, exactly. That was my question to her. Is don't you have to just like pee all the time? Like,
She
my
would.
gosh. I mean, every time I eat just like even a big bowl of watermelon, I'm like, whoa, where's the bathroom? I mean, I have to pee. Like, there's so much water in it that it seems like it's even more than just drinking a big glass of water of the same size. It's like, it's much more than that. Somehow it just makes you have to go. So she eats an entire, like not a huge watermelon, but she'll eat like
the Gavina one.
But I mean, it's not a little one. They don't even grow the sugar babies. It's like a regular watermelon, but a
Sugar
small
babies
regular.
are really good.
I love that. I was growing them a few years ago and I didn't realize it because the seed packet somebody gave me just said watermelon. So I was growing them in the backyard and I had a few watermelons and they got about that big, like the sugar babies. And then they just stopped growing. And I thought, do they need more water? What's wrong with them? And they just never kept. And I thought, oh, wait a minute. They're sugar baby.
Let's ask Kathy's. I think Kathy's already in the list. Let's make sure she's in the list for prizes. So she's asking a question. If does watermelon ripen more if you leave it at room temperature?
I don't know.
I don't know, but I do know in general, before I cut fruit like that, I generally leave it at room temperature. Once I cut watermelon, I refrigerate. I like it better cold, but I let it sit. Like my wife just brought a lovely, what my wife got from the farmer's market also, and Carolyn knows about this, is there's this vendor who makes all these vegan nut butters, and he made this unbelievable pistachio nut butter. It's the best nut butter I've had in my life. And so
good.
so there's two left, and he saved them for me. A high-fat food, you don't eat a lot of it, but it's like the best nut butter ever. So I have.
It's so good,
and it makes an amazing pesto for pasta.
You've had pistachio nut butter.
Pistachio butter.
Ooh, yeah.
If you put it with pasta.
Small quantities. Very good. But watermelon, my guess is that watermelon, the main thing, I wish Karen were here, the main thing is, does it have that kind of light colored spot, which means it's been field ripened. And as long as it has a big field ripened spot, you're probably okay. So I would just.
So I can tell you what I've learned from our farmers at the farmers market, because I talk to them all the time about this. So when we buy watermelon, like just this morning, we bought watermelon. So we always look for a flat yellowed spot, sort of yellow on the bottom of the watermelon. And you want it to be kind of flat. And that means it was ripened in the field. And then you want to thump on it. We always thump on it. And it sounds like we knock on our watermelon. And it kind of echoes, but it has like a real liquidy thud sort of sound, not like a crisp knock sort of sound. So as soon as it sounds like a, thumpy, like a liquidy kind of thud, and then it smells good at the stem end. Right. It actually has a watermelon smell to it. But
what would you do what happens
Mm-hmm.
if you knock and somebody inside says, "Who's there?"
I know, exactly. Somebody knocks back, I would say, I'm not buying that one, but yeah, not sure who's living in there. So, but according to the farmers at the farmers market, there are times when we buy some, like I leave it on the kitchen counter. After we cut it, we refrigerate it, but it sits out on the counter. Usually it will last for weeks just sitting on the counter, probably no more than about 2 weeks. But, and I've heard before that they don't continue to ripen sitting on the counter, but according to the farmers, they do. So I've had a few farmers who've told me, you know what, just let this one sit on the counter for a few days and then it'll be really good.
It may depend on the variety, but surely I'm also suggesting that it doesn't really ripen. And that's why Karen talks about making sure there's a big, light spot, which means it's field ripened, which is really
and flat. It's flat on one side because it sat on that one side and ripened in the sun, which is what you're looking for. So, but I've also heard that they don't continue to ripen, or that any fruit continues to ripen. But I don't know. According to the farmers at our farmers market, there are times that they'll tell us, well, just let that one sit on the counter for a few days and then
but
cut
you
it.
know what?
I
So,
know,
I've
I
also
know melon does a little bit, but
yeah, melon
Yeah,
continues to ripen a little bit.
cantaloupe. Cantaloupe, I
University
think
of
does.
Minnesota Extension Service says no, they don't, and that actually fruits and veggies go in two schools: the ones that ripen and the ones that don't ripen. I'm going to read this article and then I'll tell you more about it. I'm not going to read it now.
So cantaloupes I know do ripen more at room temperature. So if you have a cantaloupe, let it sit. But I'm not sure about. I don't think watermelon
Cool.
does. It's a good question though. And
And
the other
that's
thing I
what
wanted
they
to say
say,
is,
that they don't.
yeah,
They need to be picked at the height of their ripeness. Otherwise, it's useless, it says.
Well, that
yeah,
makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. But I think, at least here in Alabama, where watermelon is very plentiful in the summer, it's just, it grows everywhere
Right.
like a
yeah.
weed. We have so much
Kathy,
watermelon that,
Kathy's right.
yeah,
Avocados do ripen, and,
avocados
when they
Oh my
definitely
when
God,
ripen.
yeah,
ripen,
for
they ripen
sure.
quickly, and then you've got
Oh,
to
avocados are so funny. I've seen a meme that showed not yet, not yet, not yet, yeah,
too late,
ready, too late.
right?
You got to catch it right when it's ready, and then stick it in the refrigerator. So
So
yeah, and
Mike and Denise are
pineapples,
experts
yeah,
at pineapples. They eat lots of pineapples. They don't ripen
yeah,
Oh,
after
and they
picking.
also
pineapples don't
exactly
ripen. Oh,
they do
okay, I
not
didn't know
ripen
that.
after picking. Yeah,
Let's
I think watermelon might a little bit, according to the farmers, but they
Right.
probably
They would
our
know. They
farmers
live with
wouldn't,
it.
but they wouldn't pick them before they were ripe.
and
That's the
apples, I
thing
don't think do
in the
either.
field
I
do.
put my apples straight in the
No,
refrigerator
apples
because I
don't.
like a cold apple.
Right,
It tastes better at cold. So
right, and no,
let
they do not continue to
we
ripen. No,
we can keep taking questions, but
They
let's do the
continue to
drawing.
age.
Let's do.
I have six people.
All right. So
Wow.
read off the list and make sure anybody who had a question, make sure your name shows up.
Okay, Shirley Ann Mooney, Lee Hay, Mike and Denise with aplantbaseddiet.org, Kathy Sabo, Janet Doe, and Bonnie.
Okay. So I'm going to do a drawing. I'm going to do a random number from 1 to 6, and if you win, then what you need to do is you need to not post it here, but email Karen at so many cooks.com and myself, Dilip at so many cooks.com, and include your mailing address. We need that, but don't post it here for obvious reasons. But do email it to Karen and me, and we'll get your prizes on their way to you. You're going to love Brenda's book if you don't already have it, and if you
I don't
if you
have it. I want it.
if
I asked a question, Joel.
it's a great book, and some of you probably do have it. If you win Brenda's book
I
and you
need to get
own
it.
that copy, then just let us know, and we'll get you one of Brenda's other books. Her most recent book has one of my recipes in it, her protein book, which is pretty exciting. So
Oh,
yeah. So let's go ahead and draw. I'm going to draw a random number from 1 to 6, and the rules are that you don't get to win twice. So if you win and I draw your number again, I'll draw again. Okay. So here goes. This is the winner for Brenda Davis's book, Becoming Vegan Comprehensive Edition. Excellent book. So the winner is from 1 to 6. It is 3. So who's number 3?
Mike and Denise.
Mike and Denise, congratulations. So I know your contact. I think I have your address, but go ahead and send us your mailing address. 'Cause I know you go to different houses, and we'll get you Brenda's book. So confirm a plant-based diet that you're still live with us. Then we'll know to expect an email from you and get your address. So congratulations to a plant-based diet. Please send a comment so we know that you're here. Jan is sending you congratulations, as are we. So wait a second for a plant-based diet to say something so we know they're still here. Uh, and yep, excellent. So yeah, we know how to get you. So send me a text or an email and let me know your mailing address and we'll get you Brenda's book. All right, the second prize is a wonderful subscription to Vegetarian Resource Group. I love VRG. If you open up their magazine, it's run by Charles Stoller and Deborah Wasserman, and everybody agrees that Charles looks a lot like me, or I look a lot like him. Our hair has the same greeting. And Mike is sending, did you see my reply? Mike, did you already email me? Let's see. I did not get an email
He
from you
gave a
yet.
thumbs up. He gave a thumbs up reply a second
Yeah,
ago.
we
I
saw
saw
that
it.
you're still here,
Okay.
right? So
Mhm.
Denise and Mike, congratulations. So anyhow, I love VRG's magazine. It's not slick. I think it does have color, and it is color, but it's great. It's great. Good information. It used to be called Vegetarian Journal. It's now called Vegan Journal, and it's very good. It's not focused just on health. It's focused on veganism in general. So very nice magazine. So anyhow, the winner of that, who gets a 1-year subscription to Vegan Journal, is number 4. Who's number 4?
Kathy Sabo.
Kathy Sabo. Congratulations to you, Kathy. I'm just writing that down. I know that, and Mike, I got your text. Yep, good. So, Kathy Sabo, congratulations to you. Can you mention that you're still here? And you'll send an email to Karen@somanycooks.com and Dilip@somanycooks.com. You're going to love the magazine, Kathy. You'll learn a lot from it. Well done, magazine. So let's wait a second. Let's see if Kathy is here. I'll say congratulations to Kathy on the magazine and to a plant-based diet for the book. Yay, Kathy's here. Okay, so we'll look for an email from you, Kathy. And then we can start wrapping up the show. I wanted to make a comment about our future shows. So next month is a fun thing. So my daughter and I visited Nebraska. We visited with Cody. And while we were together, we made a recording, which we're going to show next month on cruciferous vegetables. So I know what I will be
I don't
making,
know.
because I already made it and I will do it. I'll demonstrate it. So Cody and I cooked a very nice cruciferous vegetable dish I think you're going to really like.
What'd you make?
I'll let it be a secret for now.
Well, okay, but then we don't. What if we try to make the same thing? You have to let us know what you're doing,
I will.
so we don't
I'll
make
let you
it
know.
too.
I'll let you know. I don't want our audience to know yet. So.
Well, was it with cauliflower, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, kale? Which cruciferous vegetable
Collard
did you use?
greens.
Collard greens. Which one did you use?
Brussels sprouts.
Brussels sprouts. Okay, that
Yeah,
helps.
well,
So, because I was going to do a Brussels sprout thing, so I'll do something else. Okay.
So I got to cook in Cody's wonderful kitchen downstairs. She has a new kitchen in her basement, so that was really fun. And the date of the next show, Janet. Let's see if I even know what the date of the next show is. I think I do. I'll check.
September the something or other. It's early in September. September 12th or something like that. 11th. Let's see.
It is
14th?
not
7th.
the 14th.
7th. It's the 7th.
It's the 7th. Yeah, it's the 7th. So September 7th. And maybe even today I'll publish, I'll put the event out there so you'll have it. You can watch us on Facebook or YouTube. Twitter used to work and there's some problems with Twitter. So yeah. And then for the October show, we're thinking of doing a show on mushrooms. It's not confirmed. I've mentioned that. And the reason mushrooms is because, yes, at our farmer's market, which I don't get too often because it's early in the morning, but at the farmer's market, there's this guy who sells mushrooms. And he was really excited about our show. And I said, would you like me to come? And they have a kitchen there too. And so the idea, and I've mentioned it to you guys internally, is maybe we would do the show where I would start at this mushroom farm and give the farmer 10 minutes or so to talk about mushrooms and how he grows mushrooms and all. And then maybe I would do a really quick cook, in his kitchen. I'd do something like sauteed mushrooms or something like that. Presumably I get all the ingredients from him, freshly grown, so I don't have to buy them.
Nice.
I bring onions and other things, right? And then we can go kitchen to kitchen and we can do other mushroom dishes. So that's the thought for October.
Do we know what day that is yet? I will be in Italy for quite a while during.
We'll make sure.
Here.
No, I'm sorry.
Well, I don't think you've missed a single show, so we'll make sure that we coordinate so you don't miss.
Maybe I can record something ahead of time. Do that.
If you're not going to be here and we don't want you to miss, then maybe, we could try that. Like Cody and our recordings seem to go okay. So we'll make sure you're part of the show. So we're thinking mushrooms. And then for November and December, last year, what we did is we've done 3 or 4 years of holiday dishes. So we rebroadcast some of them. And we might do that because that gives us a break. But I don't know. We haven't decided. Maybe we'll do some fresh stuff. I don't know. So we'll talk internally, and there'll certainly be some holiday shows because we do have lots of existing ones in the can that we could rebroadcast. So we'll see what we're going to do for that.
Okay.
Are there any last questions on melons? On the melon show, we loved the questions that came in. We hope that you'll try our recipes and hope that you're looking forward to the cruciferous vegetables next month. But any final questions? Was this, were any of you guys new for the first time? I know there were a few names I hadn't seen. Thank you, Shirley. What makes it great is the questions you guys, that helps make it great, the questions and all. Well, thanks. And
I'll be in Abu Dhabi next month.
Aw.
And when you're in Abu Dhabi, you usually cook and run because it gets really late for you. So we really appreciate your being in Q&A.
I know. It's fun as well. I'm glad that I can be here.
Yes. Yeah. it gets really late for Shannon, so I know we appreciate you're still cooking for us, but I understand after that you
Right.
need to go to bed.
Yeah, it's
So
like 1 a.m. when it's
yeah, it's the time.
Q&A.
Yeah.
No, no, that's very late. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay.
Carolyn, did you have any final thoughts on the show or about watermelon or anything?
I love watermelon. I was very happy we did. It was really hard to pick which thing to do because I make a lot of stuff with watermelon, but mostly we just eat it. So
Right.
my husband has a really fun way of cutting it. So I can't even begin to describe it, but I think he has it on our YouTube channel where he shows how he cuts a watermelon. It's the funniest thing ever. He does some kind of grid thing where he cuts and cuts and makes like, crosshatch, and then he just scoops it out and it's already in little cubes. It's kind of incredible to watch, but I think he has it on our YouTube channel.
Your husband's kind of incredible.
He is a pretty incredible guy. So yeah, I'm pretty sure I got to look at my YouTube channel. I think we do have a video on how he cuts watermelon, which is actually really interesting. So let's see if
Why
I can
don't you, when you find it, even if it's after the show, post it so others can see that?
I think we should close by singing Down by the Bay where the watermelons grow.
Where the watermelons grow, yeah.
Well, we have a
Exactly.
professional singer.
I love that song.
We have a professional singer in our midst.
Yes, we do.
Carolyn's the one who sings our theme song.
Down by
That's
the
right.
bay.
Bay, where the watermelons grow. I don't remember the rest of the words.
Yeah, I don't know them either. I need to know the words. I'm not seeing our watermelon cutting thing. I swear he put that on here, but if not, then I'll make him make a video of it. How he cuts watermelon. We'll put it on there. So pretty funny.
Well,
All
thanks
right.
everybody for watching. It was a delight to share with you. We look forward to seeing you next month. I've already cooked, so I look forward to sitting back and watching myself with Cody. That'll be fun, and I look forward to seeing what you guys make.
And it's
look forward to
cruciferous vegetables.
cruciferous vegetables.
Cruciferous. Okay.
I'll post the show sometime soon. Yeah, see you next month, Janet. See you, everybody. Thanks for joining.
Bye.
We'll see
Bye,
you soon.
everybody. Good to see you.
Bye. Good to see you,
Bye.
everybody. Bye.
Bye. Down by the bay.
Where the watermelons grow.
We don't know the rest of the words, though.
I know. I don't know the words either. I gotta look that
Back
up.
to my home, I dare not go, for if I do, my mother will say, did you ever see a fox kissing a box down by the bay? Or something.
Like, the summer camp song, isn't it? I teach math summer camps.
okay.
I should integrate that.
You should know this song, Dylan.
I should. I don't teach so many kids as you do, though, Carolyn. You teach lots and lots of kids.
It's more than 30
90.
years ago.
90 all summer. I had 90.
I probably taught more than 90, but not in one sitting.
Well, I guess if you count all of them together over the years I've done this, then it's 90 every summer. Between 50 and 90 every summer. Oh my goodness, it's exhausting.
Bye.
Bye.
So many cooks in the kitchen, so many recipes to share. So many cooks in the kitchen with meals for you to prepare. We've got fruits and grains, veggies and beans, more healthy food than you've ever seen. So many cooks in the kitchen, plant-based meals to prepare. So many cooks in the kitchen with ideas we're happy to share.